I'm Terry Casey. Something happened more than 50 years ago downtown that changed history and affected all of us in more ways than one. I'll have that story coming up. Hemming Plaza, downtown Jacksonville, where you can take a walk, catch a ride on the Skyway, or just sit down and relax. But in 1960, this place had a different feel. Change was in the air. So was violence. Members of the NAACP Youth Council then, many of them teenagers, held peaceful demonstrations at segregated white downtown lunch counters. Simmering tensions exploded on August 27th. A mob of some 200 whites with axe handles and baseball bats attacked the young protesters. Amos Ely, he's 79, remembers like it was yesterday.
They didn't just hit the sit-ins and the people like that. They hit the little lady that's coming from cleaning the lady's house and the janitor that's coming out of the thing. They didn't discriminate. If you was black, they beat you.
Somebody called it Axe Handle Saturday. The name stuck.
Axe Handle Saturday was just what I call a final act to put us colored people back in our place. But it was the one that straw that broke the camel's back.
Jacksonville historian Emily Liska.
After that point, there was movement by the city and moreover by the citizens of this city. There had to be a change.
It was common for guys our age to be called a nigger. And I guess people my age, we got used to that.
Amos was 26 then. Things were tough.
I was shining shoes. That's what I did for a living.
And waited for change to come.
Changes did come, and changes in hiring came.
The Jacksonville Coach Company ran buses back then. It was privately owned and situated here along Riverside Avenue. The company hired 8 black men, demanding they meet nearly impossible standards. Then, in almost spy-like secrecy, began to train them how to drive a bus.
All good things for black people in the South started on a bus.
With civil rights icon Rosa Parks in Montgomery, Alabama, when she refused to move to the back of a bus in December 1955. 5 years later, almost to the day, Amos Ely and 7 other men seated in the front drove into history. They were Jacksonville's first black bus drivers. But back then, Amos didn't give history much thought.
If you ask me, did I go in thinking that? No. You're just a bus driver.
All he knew was, for the first time, he had a job, a real one.
I had never made $100 in 1 week. I could work all day, which I did because it was me, it was something I loved. And make any amount of money you want to make. I had never been in that situation. So you hear people talking about, what did they do to you on the bus? I said, I got called the same thing on the bus that I got called off the bus. But I was carrying on $20 to $25 per day.
It was scary from the start. Amos used to live in this area between Jackson and Stonewall Streets when threats and fear forced him out of his home.
I had to move from there when we became bus drivers because that was too hard on my family because they knew they would have got bombed.
The drivers had to deal every day with threats and the venom of verbal attacks spewed, Amos says, by whites and blacks.
It was hostile. But in my age bracket, what some people now would call hostility was the norm. I've been called a nigger on the bus without a job. I was called a nigger on the bus with a job.
At work, they dealt with segregation.
We wasn't in the room, the driver's room with the white guys, but we made the same salary.
They also made surprise discoveries.
There was ignorance on both sides. And I thought all white people could read. They thought or black people couldn't read.
The Jacksonville Coach Company eventually went out of business. And in 1971, the agency that is now the Jacksonville Transportation Authority took over all of the public transit operations in the city. And Amos Ely, well, he just kept on driving.
The thing I like most about driving was Thursdays. Payday.
Amos retired from JTA after 36 years behind the wheel.
I think it's one of the saddest days. Got in my car, drove to the gate of the bus company, and sat and watched and cried.
Amos and the others made history. There's no question they paid the price. But was it worth it?
Yes. 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 It's a star in your crown that you didn't even expect.
In Jacksonville, Terry Casey for Making Moves.